Life in the penthouse was a lesson in suffocating silence. Amara was a ghost surrounded by opulence, a prisoner with a breathtaking view of a city she could no longer touch. The expensive clothes in the closet were a costume for a life she wasn't living, and the gourmet meals left by an invisible chef tasted like ash in her mouth. The chief's visits were the only disruption, and they were changing. The cold, transactional touches for his cure were becoming something more sinister. He was growing obsessed, not just with the effect she had on him, but with her. He began to see her as the source, his personal fountain of life. He started bringing her gifts, a diamond necklace, a silk scarf, not as presents, but as adornments for his most prized possession. He would make her sit in his office while he worked, a silent talisman against his weakness. One evening, he was more talkative, a dark energy radiating from him. "Funky thinks she's clever," he had said, swirling a glass of brandy. "She is trying to turn my board against me, a woman's foolish games." He looked at Amara, his eyes burning with a strange intensity. "She doesn't understand real power. She doesn't have you." In his mind, Amara was no longer a secret to be hidden, but a weapon to be wielded. She was his bird in a gilded cage, and he was growing to love the sound of her song, even as he reinforced the bars. But the more he tried to own her, the more the desperate, primal need for freedom grew inside her. Her only link to the outside world was the daily food delivery. A guard would bring it from the lobby and leave it at her door. An idea, wild and dangerous, began to form. She started a routine, complaining every day about a minor flaw in the order. "Too much salt. This is cold." Each time, she would ask the young guard on duty, David, to apologize to the driver, Tunde. She was conditioning them, making a returned food bag a normal, non-threatening event. The day she decided to act, her heart felt like it was beating in her throat. She wrote 2 words on a tiny scrap of paper. "Help me." Underneath, she added one more. "Reward." She wrapped the note around the heavy diamond necklace Adeleke had given her, his chain, now her key, and sealed the precious package inside an empty sauce container. When the food arrived, she gave it a few minutes before calling the guard, her voice a practiced performance of panic. "David, there are nuts in this sauce. I'm terribly allergic. My throat is closing up. Please, take it away. Tell the driver to throw it out." Anaphylactic shock was the perfect emergency. It was urgent, terrifying, and ensured no one would inspect the supposedly contaminated food. She heard him retrieve the bag from her door and rush away. The gamble had been made. Her life was now in the hands of a stranger named Tunde. The following day was a slow, agonizing torture. Every sound was a potential threat. Had Tunde gone to the chief? Had he thrown the package away? Had her one shot been for nothing? With a prayer on her lips, she ordered her food as usual. When David brought the bag, she could barely breathe. She tore it open inside, her hands shaking. It looked normal. Rice, chicken, vegetables. Despair, cold and absolute, washed over her. It had failed. Then she saw it. Tucked under the napkin was a cheap burner phone, the kind that leaves no trace. Taped to it was a note. "This number works for 48 hours. Tell me what you need." Tears of pure, unadulterated relief streamed down her face. A crack in the cage, a lifeline, a chance. She hid the phone deep within the lining of her old handbag, a relic of the life she was so desperate to reclaim. Hope, fierce and dangerous, surged through her for the first time in months. She was formulating a new plan, a final, desperate move, when she heard the soft ding of the private elevator. The doors slid open, and Chief Adeleke strode in, hours earlier than usual. He unbuttoned his jacket, a look of grim satisfaction on his face. "I'm not going home tonight. he announced, his voice leaving no room for argument. My real home is here, with my source of power. He locked his eyes on hers, and she knew the game had just changed. Her 48-hour window was ticking, and her jailer had just locked himself in the cell with her. The air in the penthouse became thick, charged with his triumphant energy. Adelake was not the cold CEO. He was the victorious king, and he was here to claim his spoils. He shed his jacket, pouring a drink as soft jazz began to play, an eerie soundtrack to Amara's terror. Her mind was screaming. The phone, her singular hope, was in the closet of the bedroom he now moved towards. He stopped and turned, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. You're quiet, Amara, he purred, walking towards her. Forget sir. Tonight you will call me Adeleke. He was inches away now, the scent of his cologne suffocating her. He reached out, his touch no longer a transactional necessity, but a brand of ownership. Everything I am now, I owe to you, he whispered, his voice thick with a possessive desire that made her skin crawl. Tonight, I will thank you properly. This was it, the precipice, the unspoken line she had prayed he would never cross. Her mind raced, seizing on the only escape she could imagine. I don't feel well, she stammered, backing away, pressing her hand to her stomach. I think it was the food. His smile vanished, replaced with a flash of irritation. Don't play games with me. I'm not, she insisted. Please, I just need a minute in the bathroom. He stared, his eyes narrowed, but finally gave a curt nod. She fled, locking the door behind her, her body trembling violently. This was her only chance. Tunde was just a driver. He couldn't fight his way in here. She needed a bigger weapon. She needed an army. She needed someone who hated Adeleke with a white-hot passion, someone with the power to tear his kingdom down. She needed Funke. It was a devil's bargain, an act of setting her own prison on fire to escape. With trembling fingers, she pulled out the burner phone. She sent a text to Tunde, a message that was a lit match tossed into a room full of gasoline. Use the diamonds. Pay whatever it takes. Get this message to Funke Coker immediately. He is with his cure at the Ikoyi penthouse, top floor, now. She hit send. There was no going back. She had declared war. Taking a deep breath, she unlocked the door and walked back out to face the lion, praying the lioness was on her way. Adeleke was by the window, but he turned, his patience gone. Enough games, he said, opening his arms. Come here, my little bird. She walked into his embrace, a sacrifice buying time, her body rigid as she listened for the sound that would mean either her salvation or her destruction. Ding! The elevator chime was the sweetest sound she had ever heard. Adeleke stiffened, pushing her away as raw fury contorted his face. The doors slid open. Funke stood there, a vision of black-clad vengeance, a lawyer and a man with a camera behind her. So, Funke said, her eyes sweeping over the scene and landing on Amara, this is the little cure that brought the dead back to life. The secret was out. Adeleke roared, Get out of my home! My lawyers have been busy, darling. Your 5 years of neglect have transferred control to the family trust. To me. You're in my home now. The foundation of his world shattered. He lunged for Amara, a desperate attempt to hold on to the source of his power. She is mine, he bellowed. But in that instant, Amara broke free. She stood between them, no longer a pawn, but the queen. It's true, she said, her voice ringing with newfound strength as she looked at Funke. His body is broken without me. Then she turned to Adeleke, delivering the final killing blow. Your wife can't fix you. No woman can. Only me, a poor secretary you thought you could cage. The man with the camera filmed it all. The confession, the humiliation, the utter destruction of a king. Adeleke collapsed onto the sofa, a broken man, letting out a guttural sob of defeat. Funke approached Amara, with a checkbook in her hand. "You were smarter than I thought," she said, handing her a check for 50 million naira. "Your severance package. A car is waiting downstairs. Disappear. You don't want to be part of this story." Amara took the check. It wasn't a gift. It was her payment, the price of her freedom. Without a backward glance at the ruined man on the sofa, she walked to the elevator. As the doors closed, she saw Funke looking down at her husband with the cold satisfaction of a predator who had just reclaimed her territory. Amara descended from the sky and walked out into the Lagos night, the check in her hand, a heavy testament to her survival. She was not a victim. She was a survivor, walking into a future she had bought with the ashes of a fallen king.